Now that I have your attention, listen up. You do not come into my town threatening people I care about. Going after Elena? Bad move. You leave her alone or I will rip you to bits because I do believe in killing the messenger. You know why? Because it sends a message.
Welcome back to Book Reviews and Booze. I am your worthy host, Shane Gray. Today I am reviewing a trilogy. That's right, not one, not two, but three. A trilogy. I'm Not a Serial Killer, released in 2009. Mr. Monster, released in 2010. And I Don't Want to Kill You, released in 2011. I'm Not a Serial Killer is a book that follows a 15-year-old John Wayne Cleaver, a diagnosed sociopath who lives above a morgue with his mother. He fears that he is fated to become a serial killer, and so he lives by a set of rules designed to keep his violent impulses in check. Hello, Dexter fans! We hear some Dexter in this. It is very Dexter-esque, and this is author Dan Wells' first novel. I believe he is of Mormon descent. Is that a descent these days? God knows. Oh, don't want to offend the religious. Point is this. Comes across as John Wayne Cleaver as he writes from his point of view and his perspective, and it is fascinating and amazing and most deliciously disturbing as investigates a serial killer in his neighborhood, who in turn he suspects is his neighbor, a very old man named Mr. Crowley, who he helps with yard work of all things. And he loves Mrs. Crowley. She is so beloved and nice, and the winters are hard in this Midwestern town. But geez, what do we do here? John Wayne Cleaver, what is he to do? He wants to kill, and he keeps his killing urge behind a wall. His killing urge, by the way, by the name of Mr. Monster, which is the name of the second book, titled Mr. Monster. We'll get into that a little bit later. Don't want to keep this too long for you guys. I know you got a lot of things to do with that Facebook and Twitter going on. So what we have here is I'm Not a Serial Killer. John Wayne Cleaver investigates this, and I don't want to give away any twists, because some twists come along, and boy, they are big, and they change the shape of the story. When you start reading this, you think you're reading a different kind of book, but when you get to that twist, boy, does it spin your head round, round, like a record, baby, round, round. Dan Wells is a great author. And I wish he would have stuck to John Wayne Cleaver books, though he did a trilogy, and he decided to focus his heart on science fiction, which I regretfully inform you, because honestly, John Wayne Cleaver is one of the greatest fictional teen characters we've had in millennia. Forever, to me. An alcoholic who reads books and is also a writer. Right now I'm drinking the red wine, talking to you about this book, but the amazing ending was great. The twist was great. Everything along this path was great. You guys should check out I'm Not a Serial Killer by Dan Wells. I bought it at Barnes & Noble in paperback. I walked into the store and I saw it and I bought it. And that's actually how I discovered it. So that's what you can do with I'm Not a Serial Killer. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into the sequel, Mr. Monster, from 2010. A young adult thriller novel. And it's a sequel to I Am Not a Serial Killer by author Dan Wells, previously mentioned. It's the second book in the John Wayne Cleaver trilogy. The book focuses around the dual threats of conflict between John and his darker side called Mr. Monster. That is the urge to kill people around him and kill people that sort of he sees. This is basically, if you read Dexter or have seen Dexter, the equivalent, Mr. Monster is the equivalent of the Dark Passenger. What happened was we had a interesting ending with I'm Not a Serial Killer with John Wayne Cleaver. Discover the killer and foil the killer. That's not much of a twist, but the twist is who the killer and what he is. So I won't give that away here. Now Mr. Monster is now John sort of picking up the pieces after that. Sort of talking to his mother, explaining to his mother that I'm not as crazy as you think I am. Though his mother knows he's a sociopath, his mother's very concerned about him. And of course they work in a mortuary. So anytime a victim is killed in these murder cases, they come straight to the mortuary. And now John gets a first look at the bodies to try to gather clues on who the killer is for this story. The thing is, this was originally one of my favorites. One of my favorite in the series until the third one came out, which, by the way, I didn't even know. It took me forever to find this because I guess Dan Wells isn't as, I don't know, world-renowned as he should be. He gets released a lot in the UK, and when it comes over here, it seems like I don't hear about it. Dan Wells is an amazing author. Dan Wells should be looked at. He's a great author. In this novel is, let me tell you, in a bigger predicament than you ever thought he could ever be in your life. Okay? John Wayne Cleaver gets captured. And that's all I'm going to say, because I want you guys to read it. But with drama, twists, even more than the first, and gorier and darker than the first, and even more, a little bit into the paranormal and the science fiction than you ever thought, Mr. Monster is the way to go. Now let's come full force with I Don't Want to Kill You. I Don't Want to Kill You by Dan Wells, the third and final installment in the John Wayne Cleaver series as we see it. Dan Wells introduced us to John Wayne Cleaver in the chilling novels I Am Not a Serial Killer and Mr. Monster. In I Don't Want to Kill You, Cleaver faces his toughest challenge yet. John Wayne Cleaver has called a demon, literally called it on the phone, and challenged it to a fight. He's through the town's darkest secrets, searching for any sign of the demon who might be. One thing becomes all too clear. In a game of cat and mouse with a supernatural killer, you're always the mouse. This is a description per Amazon. And I Don't Want to Kill You, honestly, nullified the second book for me, Mr. Monster. I Don't Want to Kill You blew my socks off to the point where I thought Dan Wells should be second to Stephen King, second to James Patterson. Dan Wells blew my effing socks off with I Don't Want to Kill You. I thought, I'm not a serial killer. I fell in love with the novel. When I read I Am Not a Serial Killer, I fell in love with it instantly. The John Wayne Cleaver character, everything. When Mr. Monster came out, I loved the hell out of it. I thought, Mr. Monster, great. I want to see what happens next to John Wayne Cleaver. And then when they smacked me in the face with I Don't Want to Kill You, and Dan Wells smacked me in the face with this novel, I wanted to cry, I wanted to retch, and I wanted to rip the guts out of everybody in my family because this novel was amazing. And this novel set the base for many more novels, but it was ended. This was the trilogy that could have spawned a series for, I don't even know. This could be the same as James Patterson's Alex Cross. This could have been a number of things, and it ends, and it's so bittersweet and sad and tragic, and you weep. You weep so bad, you weep from your ears. Check this novel out. You know, don't screw yourselves on this. Don't say, I want to get back into reading, but I don't know what to do. Okay, get into this. You know, you like fantasy, you like wizards, you like nerd stuff. No. Check this one book out if you could. Even this, maybe this isn't the same if you read it all from the beginning. Read I Am Not a Serial Killer, skip Mr. Monster, and read I Don't Want to Kill You. Those are your two books. I Am Not a Serial Killer, I Don't Want to Kill You. If you want, throw Mr. Monster in there for fun. You get them for cheap on Amazon. They're in paperback at Barnes & Noble. If you got money, you got credit, do it. Trust me. It'll blow your mind. I want to hear you reading that. This is Shane Gray signing off, saying keep your nose in a book and your head above the clouds. I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.